Hi, my name is Michael, and in this session, I would like to show you just how easy it is to set up a financial driver application. Now, when a customer signs with us, we give them their own database that no one else can access, and we give them a login that has the power to set up other users and control their access. Now here, I'm logging in as the administrator. And once I've logged in, it's going to show me what's going on in terms of data I've requested. Now there's nothing here at the moment, so before I go any further, let me show you what's involved in setting up the application. The first thing I need to do is to define the users. Here you can see those that have already been set up, and to add a new user I simply right-click and select the Insert New option. And this presents me with a form where I can define their name and contact details, and I'm going to add in the person Sue James. I can also set their role, which can be one of administrator, where they can add or change the application, contributor for someone who's to enter data, consolidator for someone who can run a consolidation, and reviewer for someone who approves submissions. And we'll see later where we restrict the entities they can access. For now, I'm setting up Sue as a contributor. The next thing we'll do is to look at the organisation structure that has been set. Here I can see a list of entities and where they fit in the organisation. And to add a new entity, I right-click and select the Add Unit option and enter the relevant details, which includes which users are allowed to enter and review data. Here I'm setting up the sales unit for Africa and I'm assigning it to Sue. I can easily move units between departments via drag and drop, so reorganisations are simple to do. Next, we'll look at the versions of data to be held. And currently the system is holding actual, budget and forecasts. To add a new version, for example to hold or read budgets halfway through the year, I right-click and select the Add New option. I can now use a financial driver command to copy the original budget to the rebudget version, so that when they go and enter the figures, they already have a copy of the original budget in place that they can modify. The next thing we'll do is to see what years are being held by the application. To add a year to the application, we simply right-click the grid, and by now you should be getting the idea of how the administrator works, as every element of the application setup is done in the same way. Now we'll move on to the periods that are held within each year. And in this application, we have 12 months, making up 1 year. But we could have gone down to weeks if required, and consolidate them into months or seasons as required. Next, we're going to look at the accounts or measures to be collected. These are conveniently organised into schedules that form a natural grouping of accounts. And here we've opened up the general expenses. Adding new accounts is quite straightforward and consists of defining the name, the natural sign, its type, and any formula to be assigned, which would denote that the data is calculated from other measures. And finally the exchange rate typed to be used if that's applicable. If we look at the sales revenue schedule, we have an account that is calculated through a formula. In this example, gross revenue is derived by multiplying volume by price per unit, but notice that the formula only works for the budget and forecast version. When collecting actual data, we want the gross revenue to be input, and maybe to get the system to calculate the average price per unit sold. Now one thing to notice about this schedule is that data is collected by a further dimension. And that means that all the accounts apply to, and in our case, a range of products. So the final setup is to look at that optional dimension. In our example, this dimension contains a product list that is organised into a hierarchy. As we introduce new products, we can add them here in the normal way. And here I'm adding in notepads and giving it a description, and we're done. The sales schedule can now be used to collect detailed accounts for our notepad products without us having to do anything else. And as with the organisation structure, we can move products around to create new product totals. And that's about it. We now have an application that we can use to collect and consolidate data, as we're going to show you in the next video.